Okay, well, thank you for coming, everyone, especially our three Japanese visitors, who I'll introduce in a minute. I'd also like to acknowledge CAPLIS, our Centre for Asia Pacific Law here, who's sponsoring the lunch, along with the Australian Network for Japanese Law, ANJeL, and our fantastic events team. That recording means that the presentations will be recorded, and if we like what is presented, we'll make it available later, but don't worry, the Q&A at the end, the last 15 minutes, will not be recorded or publicised in any event. Also like to acknowledge the Gadigal people, the traditional owners of these lands. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Professor Luke Nottage here at the law school. Also from April, I'll be starting a cross appointment at the University of Tokyo law faculty once we sort out 2 lots of bureaucracy. Yeah, I'm also the founding co-director of the Australian Network for Japanese Law since 2002, which is cross-institutional mainly with the Australian National University. And so we collaborate with them, for example, for the moot competition for negotiation and arbitration in Tokyo in November. Can you put up your hand if you're in the moot team this year? Anyone? No? Okay. We're just finalising the team for that. And also I'm teaching through ANJeL the Japanese law course in Kyoto and Tokyo. Any students for that? Yes? No? Okay, maybe you did it in February or planning it. So ANJeL focuses on research collaborations, teaching obviously, but also other engagement. And the main engagement is to host visiting professionals, particularly Japanese judges. So in a second, I'll ask a few questions to Judge Kimura, who's arrived here in June for a year to research certain things he'll talk about. We've also had visiting Japanese lawyers, and so then I'll mention, I'll interview later Mr. Ishikawa. Yeah. And for research collaboration, Professor Ishikawa does a lot of work at the moment in international economic law, particularly around energy transition. So we'll interview her too. But the last thing I want to mention before getting into those little interviews is just to explain how you become a core Japanese legal professional, meaning a judge, a lawyer, or a public prosecutor, because it's different from our common law approach, because Japan's inherited a continental European type legal system in these sort of structures from the 19th century. So the way you become these core legal professionals, and by the way, there are many other like specialist legal professionals who do some kind of the work that solicitors do here, like conveyancing and so on, but they're different track. But if to become, say, a lawyer, you either do an LLB for 4 years, which has sort of 1 year of general sort of topics rather than law specific, and then you do a 2-year JD. So, and then so that's one route, 6 years in total. Another route is you do a non-law degree, like in America or Canada, and then you do the JD, but then it's 3 years, so extra. It would be a total of 7 years. And then they've reintroduced like a bypass route so that students in these programs, or even independently, but that would be really hard, they just sit a national legal exam and, they bypass this route, they get to the next stage of the exam. But that's still very rare and extremely difficult. Overwhelmingly, you sort of go to university, 6 or 7 years later, you sit the full-on national legal exam. It's one exam, whether later on you become a judge or lawyer or prosecutor. And it's hard. It's a lot easier than it was before they introduced this current system 20 years ago, but it's still very hard. What the pass rate is around, like average maybe 40%, and some universities are very good, like Tokyo University or Hitotsubashi University, right? So there's a lot of smaller law schools that don't have a much lower pass rate. Whereas in Australia, if you get through this law degree, your LLB or JD here, 100% pass rate, like there's the next little bit of practical training. And then once you pass the exam, you do another year of training through the Legal Research and Training Institute. So this is managed by the Supreme Court. So the professors are predominantly judges, but they bring in some eminent lawyers and so on, professors also from academia to teach some courses and so on, give lectures. But you sort of have that three months bonding out in the suburbs of Tokyo. I went to there, in March. But then doing these lectures, after that you get seconded. 3 months at a law firm, 3 months at the court, 3 months at a public prosecutor's office. And then there's some, there's exams all the way through this and at the end. And if you do very well and you want to become a judge, you can put up your hand and start as a judge. So you're only like, maybe late 20s, right? And then you stay in a career as a judge, usually, very rarely mid-career, say, become a lawyer or a professor or something, right? Which it seems that, very different from common law, but it's totally normal in Spain or like where everyone's from or in Jose Miguel, right? But most graduates from the one-year program end up becoming lawyers. And so that's your little prequel to, to explain the backgrounds of our guests. So, let me begin then with just asking a few questions to, first of all, Judge Kimura. Yeah, if I can find it. Yeah, so Judge Kimura, as I said, has arrived in Sydney only a few months ago, still getting used to Sydney accents, weather, and so on. Can you just first of all explain what university and degrees you did before becoming a judge?
Yes. I graduated Hitotsubashi University and I got the Bachelor of Law. As you know, Japanese law school is a postgraduate institute. So after getting the Bachelor of Law, I entered the Hitotsubashi Law School and got the Juris Doctor. Juris Doctor is a degree to be eligible to take the bar exam. Yes.
Yeah. And often, obviously, some graduates from the LLB go to law school elsewhere, but, because Hitotsubashi has a very good university with a high pass rate, he went on to the law school there. And then why did you want a career as a judge, not joining Mori Hamada or another fine law firm?
Yes. As Luke introduced it, after passing the bar exam, we have three choices to be a lawyer, prosecutor, and judges. And I didn't think becoming a prosecutor because at that time I didn't like the criminal law matters. Now I'm not, but yes. So I didn't thinking becoming a prosecutor because prosecutor only deal with criminal cases. Yes. Then why I decided to become a judge is stance towards the case. Judges only have to obey the laws and the conscience. On the contrary, lawyers have to maybe have to obey the instruction of clients or the will of clients. Is it correct? Yeah.
So not necessarily obey, but with advising.
So yeah, becoming a judge, I can tackle with the cases independently without binding by other peoples. So it really attracts me. And after becoming a judge, my belief is not changed. I can now tackle the cases independently and think really freely. Mm-hmm. Yes, it's really good and meaningful and fulfilling work.
Thank you. So when you became a judge, obviously did well and in the training process and you liked being seconded to the courts for 3 months. So you became a judge, and initially, of course, first 5 years, you don't decide any cases alone. You're in a bench with 3 judges. Usually you'd be the youngest judge in the 30s, sitting over on the left, and then there'd be another judge in the 40s sitting on the right, and then there'd be the boss judge in the middle in the 50s, right? So you're in a sort of team and you give one judgment and there's no published dissents. So what courts did you first work in, and what sort of cases did you do before you came to Sydney, like so in your first 5 or 6 years?
Yes. My career as a judge started from the Sapporo District Court in Hokkaido. Before introducing my career, I have to introduce the career system of court in Japan. Japanese judges have to move regularly, generally in each 3 years. And the Supreme Court is the highest court in Japan. Supreme Court decided each judge's working court, and I was appointed as a judge in Sapporo District Court 6 years ago. And in the Sapporo District Court, I was in first 2 years. I was in the civil case division. Civil case division dealt with many civil cases, and I also tackled with many type of cases like motor accident, defamation, administrative cases, and so on. Yes. In big cities like Tokyo or Osaka, there is some civil division specialized in specific cases like medical negligence, intellectual property, and administrative cases like that. Yes, but I was in the civil division dealing with general civil cases, so I had to deal with many type of cases. And after 2 years passing, I moved to criminal case division. Yes. In criminal case division, I dealt with some crime cases, including the judge and jury mixed panels. I think there is no equivalent in Australia. Judge and jury constitute of one panel and dealt with serious crime like murder and robbery resulting in injury. Yes. Yes. After that, okay. It's okay.
Yeah. And so because you've done both civil cases and some criminal cases, including very serious crimes, you are also going to be looking at research in those areas. What specifically are you going to be comparing for this year in Sydney? Yeah.
Okay. Yes. I'm really interested in the civil case. One is about civil cases, especially the case required expert knowledge to rule. So I'd like to study the way of case management and examination of expert witness. Yes. Mm-hmm. And the second one is about youth crime. Yes. Before coming here, I worked as a judge of the Kisarazu branch of the Chiba District and Family Court, and I dealt with some juvenile crime cases. So I'd like to, then I got interested in the juvenile crime cases and juvenile justice system. So I also like to study and overview the Australian juvenile justice system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you're interested in those fields or have something to share, please talk to Judge Kimura afterwards. And so you've only been here a few months, but have you found any noticeable differences in those fields? Or more generally, in the practices of the judges or the lawyers. So already you're going down to the Supreme Court, you went to the commercial list, managed by a former colleague here, Justice Elizabeth Peden, which was pretty surprising because it's fast track case management of lots of construction and commercial corporate cases, right? So, but anything else that you've found like different already from observing courts or lawyers in Australia?
Yes, actually, I just arrived here only 2 months ago, so it's really difficult to point out clearly. But when I observed the court procedure with Professor Nottage, I was surprised that there were much oral communication in the courtroom. Yes, judges and parties really exchanging legal opinion and opinion about fact finding. Yes, in Japan, before the courtroom procedure, lawyers submit the detailed document, and the judges have to read it meticulously. Mm-hmm. But after coming to courtroom, we don't have much oral communication, only a few questions and a few answers, and that's finished. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I was really surprised at the way of oral communication in the courtroom. Mm-hmm. And yes, and plus I was also surprised that there are many academic staffs in the university who have the qualification and experience as a legal practitioner. Mm. And also there are many judges who have academic careers before becoming a judge. I think it's really rare in Japan. Most judges don't have academic career like master or doctor or post of academic posts like university lecturer, even about the Supreme Court judge. Yes, I was really surprised that the collaboration, academic and legal practitioner.
Oh, thank you. All right. Well, we're sticking to terrific Japanese time. So, but next 10 minutes, I'd like to turn to Professor Ishikawa because there's kind of a nice link there, actually. So can you explain your career path, which is quite unusual, impressive?
Okay, thank you, Luke, for your kind introduction. So my legal career, about 20 years ago, I began my legal career as an associate judge, just like Kimura-san, like at Tokyo District Court, and where I remained for 3 years. And then I went to the United Kingdom to do my second LLM at Cambridge. And initially I had intended to go back to the judiciary because I quite enjoyed my work as a judge, as an associate judge. However, like at Cambridge, I attended lectures by some of you know, like late Professor James Crawford and late Michael, like Lord Mastill, and Professor Ian Paulson, like they are like stars of international law, right? And which made me realize that academics can make a significant impact on the development of not only legal theories, but also legal practice. And Professor Lavanya Rajamani, who is now a professor at Oxford, but she was the supervisor of my master's thesis. And she also changed my perception of academia. So she told me that, so like my original writing, 90% of my writing consisted of literature review, and only 2% was my own observation or arguments. And she advised me that it should be the other way around. That was very enlightening to me. So the combination of these experiences led me to think that I would be better suited to academia than to a career as a domestic court judge. because I'm a very like assertive, like and listen to me type of person. And that said, as I was nearing the completion of my PhD, so I decided to proceed to a PhD, and luckily I was awarded a full scholarship from the University College London, so I pursued my PhD there. And then, like as nearing the completion of my PhD, I wanted to test my skills in international law because I had hardly studied international law in Japan because I was a domestic court judge. So, like, I wanted to test my skills in international law in a practical setting. So I joined the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Japan as a contract-based lawyer, as a deputy director there, and where I was involved in treaty negotiations for numerous free trade agreements, investment treaties, and I also dealt with some WTO disputes. And eventually I found a position. I stayed with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs for 2.5 years, and then I found a position in academia, maybe 11, 12 years ago, and then I'm here.
Thank you. Well, yeah. And you kind of explained why you prefer your current career as primarily a legal academic in Japan. Can I turn now, since you are with Nagoya University, which is one of Sydney University's institutional partners. So have you or close colleagues taught a lot of foreign law students and other students from overseas? And what do they or others you might have met tend to find most beneficial about doing studies in Japan, coming from abroad, and what's sort of some of the challenges that they face? Because some of our students might want to go on and do postgrad study like you or something.
First of all, I have to confess that I do not belong to the law faculty. I teach at the Graduate School of International Development, and this has a very international environment. Like more than 80% of our faculty students are from abroad, and mostly from developing countries. So I have like 10 students in my seminar, and they are from Mozambique, Nigeria, Sri Lanka, Ukraine, Afghanistan, Mongolia. So it's a very impressive diversity we have. And the benefits, like generally speaking, I think Japanese universities treat foreign students very well. Very, a generous scholarship opportunities. And we do offer a variety of supports in terms of their daily lives. And the professors are so much nicer than professors in the UK. Not nicer, but more, I don't know, engaging. And the challenge can be, you can face challenges when you start job hunting or searching for a job I'm talking about academic positions and job in Japan, because most Japanese universities still require a certain level of language skills, like N2 it's called, at least the second highest level of Japanese language, linguistic skills is required to take a position in a Japanese university. So that would be a challenge. But I think studying in Japan will be a very fun experience for students from abroad. Yeah, we are generally speaking, we are very nice.
Any challenges?
So
what sort of, with all the foreign students, language?
Not at my faculty, but some faculties like the law faculty, probably some professors still accept students who can write thesis only in Japanese only, or this multicultural setting can sometimes give rise to tension between students,
Mhm.
right? Like, so, yeah, there are some like, so now at this moment in my faculty, the issue of inter-student harassment is probably a bigger issue than like academic, like vertical
Mm.
harassment. So that it can be, but like normally like they can handle these issues very well. And we are always, I'm actually harassment in charge of like harassment matters in my faculty, but the professors are always really ready to help.
Thank you. We, and this is a little bit, as we say in Australia, left field, rugby and analogies. So what about the best food, beverage, other attractions in Nagoya, but also since you have lived and commute to Tokyo, like for anything you think is
Like
stands out in a few minutes?
Okay, until the 13th of October, there is Expo in Osaka. So like, you know, it's and the best time, like avoid August. It's too hot and humid. But like, you know, if you have any chance to visit Japan in October, yeah, like visit Expo, that would be a great opportunity. And the food, like Nagoya is very famous for eels. And it, you know, it tastes good. You Australians, like we were in Perth, like the Rottnest Island, like a couple of days ago, and we tried like crocodile, emu, kangaroo. So you're not afraid of eels, right? So eels are like Nagoya is very famous, and it tastes really good. And Tokyo, like you have lots of things, cultural, like you know, and sports activities, and the what is Nagoya is also, you know, has Legoland,
Really?
which is
Oh.
good because it's always empty. So it's you know, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
like if you wish to avoid the crowd of Tokyo Disneyland or USJ, Universal Studio Japan, like come to Nagoya for Legoland, which is amusing enough. So
Yeah. No, so yeah, Nagoya's sort of a big city, but often foreign tourists, visitors, like just go past in the Shinkansen and don't get off. But if you do get off, you know, it's actually
attraction, like when you
a good
visit,
city
like do
to
give me a
visit.
shout.
Yeah. All right. Thank you. All right. So last 10 minutes, well, for 10 minutes now on for Mr. Ishikawa. So can you just explain how you became a Bengoshi lawyer and what your areas of practice are, please?
Yeah, I have to mention a bit about the background of why I chose the legal career. In the late 1990s, there was a concept of legalization of society in Japan. In the past, before that time, there was the administrative side of the society had huge influence over a lot of activities, both business and private sector in general. So if you venture a new business, it was common to consult the public officials first, whether that is permitted or that is feasible, etc. In the concept of legalized society, there was an understanding that we should be more creative, and in the ground where it's permitted by law, we could be creative without consulting the private and the government official first. We could create new business to the extent that permitted by law, written law, and present it to the officials if necessary that it is legally possible and feasible, etc., etc. So I was excited to find this concept of legalized society where, and what will be I was considering what would be the position, who would be able to lead this legalized society. And given the importance of law rather than how the administrative part of the society works, I thought that lawyers would be best positioned because it could have a good knowledge, could provide legal advice with good knowledge of law and the good expertise of how it is applied in society for the development of the society in general. So I chose legal lawyer would be the best position to do those, to create or to crystallize that sort of purpose.
And your main areas of practice now?
My current main area is a project work particularly in the real estate and energy. So I do work on the number of renewable energy projects and also something like data center projects in Japan, and acting particularly for the international developers and investors.
And my next question is about your law firm, which is like a very top tier law firm in Japan and Asia. And you provided to me and the dean some statistics about the number of lawyers, 838 in total, spread across many countries now, but even in Japan, 650. And I remembered, back in 2000, the biggest Japanese law firm had 50 lawyers. So can you explain a bit about the growth of your firm and the other top Japanese law firms, please?
Yeah, the 50 lawyers firm was exactly the firm that I joined in 2000. And at that time, our focus was predominantly in Japan, and we were working from our Tokyo office alone. But there was many requests from our clients who were exploring opportunities outside of Japan at that time. And we had really a request that we should support them in the area or jurisdictions where they operate outside of Japan. So we followed our client and expanded our offices, first in China, but subsequently into many key jurisdictions or cities in Southeast Asia. So now we have more than 800 lawyers, but they are based in many cities, 18 offices, mainly in Asia, and 9 different jurisdictions. So the most recent one we opened is San Francisco Bay office. So now we have 2 offices in the States, but those are very small, like representative offices. And we have the rest of our foreign offices is mostly where we have local law capabilities with local law qualified lawyers, including not local, but international lawyers, including Australian qualified lawyers.
Yeah, so that's another question. So does your firm have much Australia or other common law related work or international transactions or disputes where you might use either also Australian graduates?
Yeah, as you could imagine, as we expand our offices abroad, there are many instances where we have to have a good understanding, not only Japanese law, which is continental or civil law, but also the common law, where our clients or disputes or funds would come from. So there are many intersections of understanding, and also the good understanding both civil law and common law. Many of our young associates, we support their foreign law studies, but also we have internationally qualified or foreign law qualified lawyers within our team to work on those multi-jurisdictional transactions or disputes.
And finally, are there any significant differences between the sort of law firm culture in top tier large law firm in Japan, like yours, or compared to, say, as you might have noticed or heard about from big law firms in particularly common law jurisdictions?
Right. When it comes to the differences of culture, there are many differences even within the Japanese law firms. So I'm not recently involved in many of these recruitment process, but it is very common topics that is discussed during the course of the interview sessions for recruitment. How you describe our firm, or how do you find our firm culturally? And many of the interviewers or the candidates say that our firm is like a sport team-like culture. Which is kind of a traditional way how we are being described. And I think, and we really operate in a way that we are very transparent and accessible to many of the lawyers, despite the differences of the generations of their seniorities, etc. So that's we think, and we believe what is described as a sport team-like culture, not in a sense that you should obey what the senior lawyers or what your boss will say to you, not in that sense, but in more like transparent or like approachable culture. And we really do pay much attention on the diversity recently because of the different background of the lawyers. We work together on a daily basis. So there are many framework or program that support awareness of the diversity in various respects in our firm-wide sort of program recently, and so that we could work in a more integrated manner across the jurisdictions.
Yeah, I suppose one difference in culture could be that when you join a Japanese law firm as a Japanese graduate, you've had a lot more training, like legal education at university, more years, and then you've had the extra 1 year and very difficult exams to get to that stage. So probably like you expect more, work capability of your young lawyers, bengoshi lawyers, compared to say in Australia, where, the first couple of years in an Australian law firm, you're going to have to get more training and you won't have as much responsibility, right? So maybe that changes the dynamics in a law firm a little bit, and it's maybe hard to manage because now you've got all these like overseas offices that have also different traditions and different, if you like, capacities of young lawyers. Yeah, but it is
a challenge, but it is an opportunity for us because there are many exposure to the academic or like theoretical side of the law in the educational path for Japanese lawyers for many years. And it is changing recently, but there was less focus on different skill set that is required in actual practice. So the understanding of law is really a hardcore that sits in the top, but there are many different skill sets that you need to have to actually work in a law firm or to support the clients. And those are the skill sets are probably the international law firm would be more advanced in educating or encouraging the student to be aware of and to understand. Our educational system in Japan hasn't paid much attention to that aspect. So we need to provide more tools and opportunities to make them aware and to learn how they could be good at those other things. So the combination of international back-end lawyers coming from different jurisdictions is a good way to have a good community to share those experiences from different jurisdictions to make make individual lawyers fully equipped with different skills.
Thank you. All right. Well, Ashley, could we try to get our next interviewee, please? This is Joel Rheuben, who was my former student when I joined Sydney Law School back in 2001, a few years after that, I think. He was a top student in Japanese law when we were teaching it still in Sydney rather than offshore. Then he became my research assistant. And then, Joel, can you just explain when and what did you study at the University of Sydney, but especially also at the University of Tokyo?
Yes. Hi, Luke, and everybody there. Happy to do that. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, brilliant. So as for the when, it's going to make me sound ancient, but I studied at University of Sydney from 2002 to 2007, when the law faculty was in a different location in the middle of the city, and the lecture rooms were all in dungeons under the ground. And at the time, I did what was quite common for law students at that time, which was to do 2 degrees. So I did an arts degree with a Japanese studies major, and then also studied law, of course. I had the opportunity to do some student exchanges while I did those degrees. So I got to spend a year at Aoyama Gakuin University in Tokyo, and then 6 months at Kobe University as well. And then after that, I did an LLM at the University of Tokyo on a Monbu Kagakusho scholarship, and studied administrative law under Professor Uga, who's now one of the justices of the Supreme Court of Japan. So that's sort of a brief summary of my academic background.
Thank you. And can you also then share what law firms and fields you chose to work in after that?
Yes, happy to. So during my law degree, I did clerkships and paralegals at 2 Australian law firms, so what are today Allens and Ashurst. I ended up making the decision, though, not to start my career in Australia, but actually to start directly in Tokyo as soon as I graduated, and ended up getting a position with what was then Herbert Smith. There were at that time, and there are now, a lot of international firms in Tokyo. They've all got different business models, but generally they're sort of aimed at providing advice to Japanese companies that do business overseas. Obviously, there are sort of shrinking, aging markets in Japan, and so there's a lot of opportunities for growth overseas, which the international law firms tend to advise Japanese companies on. Although the Japanese legal market has changed a lot since I started my career here. Initially, I started off as a just sort of general corporate M&A lawyer, but progressively I moved into competition law, which has been my specialism for a number of years now. This sort of started at around the time that a lot of Japanese auto part manufacturers were under investigation for cartel conduct around the world, and so there was a lot of demand for support within Japan to assist with those investigations. That sort of allowed me to see a bit of a business opportunity and sort of launched a career from there. I went to Brussels and London for about 5 years, principally to sort of build up my skill base, but the intention was always to return to Japan, which I did in 2019. I was actually with Freshfields at the time, which is a sort of leading competition law firm. But then from 2019, I rejoined what's now Herbert Smith Freehills, and worked there as an Counsel, sort of managing their competition law practice in Tokyo from 2019 to just a couple of months ago this year.
Yep, thank you. So that's maybe an inspiration for our students who are thinking of, how to combine careers overseas, not just in Europe, but also in Asia, like you have.
Yes.
Also, can you also explain now how you've transitioned into these in-house lawyer roles and how that compares with working in law firms, especially for other, potential Sydney Uni graduates?
Yeah, happy to. And I should mention I'm actually working remotely at the moment, so you may hear loud children's voices in the background, and that sort of contributed to my decision to leave private practice and the very long and difficult hours in a private practice career, and instead move in-house. So as I said, I did that a couple of months ago. I am now working as a senior legal counsel at a company called Inpex Corporation, which is Japan's largest oil and gas and renewables energy company. They've got a lot of operations in Australia, actually, in Western Australia. But I've joined them as their sort of competition and regulatory counsel based in Tokyo. So as I said, the prompt for that was a decision just to sort of change lifestyle. And there certainly are a lot of changes between working in-house and working in private practice. Generally speaking, the hours are a bit better and a bit more stable than in private practice. And it's certainly very interesting to feel a part of the company and to feel that you have a sort of single set of goals with your sole client, which is the company that you work for. You're more sort of invested in the advice that you give and the outcome of that advice. There's certainly challenges that I've experienced so far with in-house life as well. You're a lot more independent and generally have a smaller team to work with than you do in private practice, and that can be both good and bad. It's certainly very rewarding to have that sense of responsibility and ownership over the decisions that you make. But sometimes it's very scary making judgment calls as well. One of the nice things about being a private practice lawyer is that you can give the best advice that you can, but then ultimately it's up to your client to sort of make the decision at the end of the day. Whereas as being in-house, you are basically the one having to make those difficult calls, which can be quite intimidating. And the other thing to note, I guess, is that there's a much bigger variety of work in-house legal. So I have a compliance regulatory focused role, but I'm still reviewing my share of non-disclosure agreements and memorandum of understanding and so forth, and doing a lot of other work that I would not be doing in a private practice capacity. So again, that's interesting to have that mix of work, but also can be quite intimidating sometimes moving out of your comfort zone.
Interest. And look, I hope this seminar has given you a lot of food for thought. And there's more food up the back. Thanks to Caplis again, Ashley, for organizing. And please give a final thanks again to our